Okay. Hi, guys. You might notice I'm not Tiffany. I'm Leisha Barnett, and I do the human design support calls for members every month. So we're going to get into that, in just a moment. Tiffany is out today on a medical leave, so I'm handling this call today, and we'll record it. And of course, it'll be available in your member portal. It's great to see everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I'm excited to keep traveling through the body graph with you. Today, we're going to explore the throat center. So I'll share my screen in a few minutes and we'll kind of get going on that. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Of course, we mentioned this will be recorded and we'll put it in your membership portal. And make sure to keep yourself muted unless you want to contribute, and you can also chat. I'll try to keep an eye on that as well. Hi, Marilyn. Yeah, no worries if you need to keep your camera off or, mute. Yeah, muting is great. So yeah, just unmute yourself and if you have anything to contribute. Hello, Kendra. Oh, new member and just starting to learn HD. Yeah, no worries about being out and about. I know this is lunchtime, so if you're catching it later or if you're joining now, whatever works for you is great for us. We also wanted to remind everyone we are hosting a Lionsgate Virtual Summit this year. This is the first time we're doing this. It's August 7th and 8th. It is free for members, and if you sign up for it, register for it, then you will get the recordings after. It's $88 for non-members. Hi, Rachel. Just kind of getting everyone settled. No need to unmute or put yourself on video. Today, Tiffany's out on medical leave, so we're just going to cover this for her. We have such a great team at Wise Skies that she's able to step out sometimes now. So I'm really glad that she's supporting herself through this medical healing that she's doing. So in the Lionsgate Summit, which is August 7th and 8th, again, you can go on the wiseskiescollective.com and register for that. It's free for members. We will be learning on day one about how birth order, moon phases, and the sun gates can help us realign to our life's greatest mission, which is ultimately to be ourselves, figure out who ourselves are underneath all the, the gunk, the layers, which human design, tarot, astrology, Akashic records, all of those things can help us, see under the layers to really find out who we are, which is ultimately the whole purpose of life, to be truly who we are. Tiffany and April, during that day one of the Lionsgate Summit, will offer an astrological vision quest as our opening ceremony. And then we will have Karen Romine, Celeste Brooks, and I will guide us through some different workshops throughout the time. Day two is a blessing ball ceremony with Adrienne Cobb, who will be leading us in this dreamy live meditation to put all of our Lionsgate intentions in a kind of a potent prayer that we will offer to the universe. And we hope you can make it. It's an experiment, so we'll see how it goes. We're excited about it. Okay, so let's kind of talk about the throat center. Let's get into human design. I'm going to share my body graph. Now, again, if you're just getting into this, or if you haven't had a reading, we invite you to have a reading. We also invite you to look in the membership portal. There's a lot of different videos. We've been doing these support calls for about a month, and we're working through the centers of the body graph. And then we have a lot of other really fun subjects that we want to talk about, like, what you can see about how to make money in your chart, what gates are in touch with plants, mammals, insects, birds, so there's a lot of different things to look at. And there's parenting things. There's, y'all, it's deep and rich. There's also partnership, and we've done some different things with that as well. You'll hear those throughout the calls. So let's get into the throat center. I am going to go ahead and share my body graph. Just as we're talking, it makes it a little bit easier to show you different things. Okay, so you should see that. So the throat center. Okay, first, what is human design? We just always kind of like to start with a level setting so that we're all on the same page. And honestly, I do great hearing it over and over in a different way, or it just, like, I love doing these workshops because while the centers are kind of foundational, basic human design knowledge, I'm 3 years into this, and every time I look at it, I see another layer. I see another way that it's said, where a particular word kind of hits me differently in it, and it's just a continued peeling away of the realization and the layers. So so I really enjoy that. So we're going to just talk about what is human design, first of all, as a quick thing. Now, this is a system for making decisions as ourselves. And as we mentioned, ultimately, that's the purpose of life. Who are each of us individually, uniquely, not the same as everyone else. There's no one size fits all. That's homogenization. This is about differentiation and how we're each different. So it's really about seeing in our mechanics on our body graph here that this is who I am. I'm not anything that's in any of this white stuff. This is who I am right here. Oh my gosh, it's doing an erasing thing. I must have pushed something. Okay, well, we'll figure it out, guys. Okay, so ultimately this is showing us who we are underneath all the layers of what we've experienced, what we've been taught, the conditioning, what we, what our minds automatically did from birth. So this is about the awareness of what our mechanics are, the clean layer of who we are, and then it's the experiment. There's practical tools to experiment with, following, who we actually are, and see what happens. See, as the layers peel away, how does it feel inside? Is it satisfying? Is this feeling of success? It's magical success is how it feels. It's this otherworldly experience of, oh my gosh, that's what I am. And it's this DNA level that you feel it. It's really interesting, and like nothing I've ever experienced. And so it gives us this really practical strategy and authority. For each type, there's a strategy, there's an authority, and it's unique to each of us. We are each our own authority. We are our own boss, right? So this is what teaches us how to actually work within that, and the specifics. What I love about it is specific, it's mechanical, it's scientific, and it can only be proved by each individual for themselves. So heck yeah, don't tell me what to think. I'll figure it out myself. I like that. So, okay, so again, it's about experimenting and finding out for yourself. So we have a lot of different articles on Wise Skies. We have a human design page that links a lot of different, we have some podcasts, we have the basics about the aura types and the profiles and all kinds of different decision-making podcasts and all kinds of different things. So we definitely invite you to explore that if you have not already. So let's get into the throat center. Okay, so this center right here is the throat center. Now, as you can see here, I have a defined throat center. Now, anywhere that's colored in the chart, defined. Anywhere that's white, undefined. In general, defined means that's where I have a consistent, reliable way that energy moves through me. I'm designed for the energy the life force to move through me in that particular way. So that's my North Star. I can look at all my definition, my centers, my channels, my gates, and I can find what I'm really am. And anything that's not that, I can start to see gradually, I'm not that. I'm not this person that, needs to think about all this stuff that doesn't matter. I don't need to be certain. In fact, I need to embrace uncertainty. I don't need to be certain about anything. So anytime I feel like I'm pretending, stop. It's not you. You can be uncertain and it's okay. And you can go through all the centers and see that. Now on my body graph, I just want to give a plug because this is a reliable source, original source tool that I really like. There's other ways you can run your human design chart. There's a few different really good source ones. This is my favorite. You can see your own not self keynotes and themes. Now, not self is the white areas. It's where we are undefined. So you see, I have 7 open centers. I have 7 undefined centers. That's a lot of not self. That's a lot of layers that I go to work through. Okay. Whoops. So just inviting you to explore this. Some of these features I've paid extra for, some are free. Okay, so with the throat center, basically all roads lead to the throat center in human design. That's the hub of the town. That's where everything is trying to get to. If you notice, it has the most gates of any center. There's 11 gates in the throat center. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. There's 11 gates in the throat center. Everything is moving toward the throat center because that's where we communicate with others. That's where we speak and commune with other people, and we share who we really are. We express what we see, what we're experiencing. And depending on the gates you have defined in the throat, what we'll look at today is your voice is going to come out in a particular way. There's words that go with each of these gates. So I'm going to show you those. And so it's another guiding North Star where if I hear myself saying certain words, then I'm speaking from not self. I'm speaking from someone around me that has that activation, or I'm speaking from just what I'm not. What I am is these 4 gates that I have defined in my throat center. Now, if you have an undefined throat center, you are going to have a less consistent way that you express, that you communicate, that manifestation happens. And it will depend on who you're around. Are you around the correct other who's activating the correct voice that you are designed, the way your voice is designed to express? So we'll get into this a little bit more. Okay, in the chat. So Shelly, you're undefined, you have 2 gates, 62 in your design sun. Okay, so that's a big one. When you have I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but as a quick thing, if you have, 70% of our expression is these top 4 gates, our personality sun and earth, and our design sun and earth. So if it's in an undefined center, which 3 of my top 4, top 4 gates are in undefined centers, like you, Shelly. If you have a design sun in an undefined center, then it is going to definitely depend on the correct other, how you are expressing who you really are, how your voice comes out, how you talk, what it sounds like, the frequency of your voice. So that's something to just watch. Again, experiment with it. How do you feel in your body, but what is your authority saying? And then also, what do you hear coming out of your mouth when you're around certain others? Collect the data, see how it feels over time, see what the pattern is that emerges with how you speak and how you feel and how your authority reacts. And then Kendra, you said you're defined, you only have 1 gate, 31. It's almost like when you have 1, it's very clear. Like me, I have 1 channel in my entire chart. Okay, 1 channel. That means it's very clear what I'm here to do. Now, there's a lot of layers when you have that much white in your chart, but there's a lot of potential for wisdom. Now it was different when I was 25 versus 47. Now, it's like the wisdom is, oh, okay, now I understand. I'm experimenting. I'm living what I am and not all these things that I'm not, because there's a lot that I'm not that I was living before. Okay. I see an image there. Oh, no channels, Cassie. Yeah, Cassie, I forget. I know you're a mental projector. Let me just look at your. Yeah, okay, Raji. Yeah, you have 4 gates and you have a channel in your going to your throat. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it, and I'll check back into the chat in a little bit, but please feel free to share there as much as you would like. So the not self talk, if of the throat center, it's really about trying to attract attention. Okay, where can I go to get the attention I want? Is anyone noticing me? I'm afraid I won't be noticed. If I say this, I'll be noticed. It's too quiet and I better say something. I feel uncomfortable. I need to manifest something. I need to make something happen. I need to force, kind of strongly try to make something happen. Try to bring something to fruition. Now, there's a lot of, just as an aside, what this study of the throat center shows us is the manifestation culture that's out there. If we're manifesting, absolutely, that's true. When we're speaking, we are bringing things into form. We're communing with others, and now they can interact with that. And now it can become a real thing that's physically comes into our life, or, not just physically, otherwise. Now, the thing with the manifestation culture that's out there, the missing piece is that 99.9% of humanity is manifesting from a distorted frequency. They're manifesting from not self. They don't have this knowledge and they haven't been working with the mechanics. So naturally, if we don't have this knowledge, we are distorted. Now, we may have come to certain things through other modalities and experiences and realizations, and like realizing the role of the mind and things like that. Like, we've all been on a different journey of awareness with that before human design. But human design adds the specifics of, if you're manifesting before you've started to sort of clean up your frequency by following your strategy and authority, you're manifesting distorted stuff because your mind is running your life. Your mind is saying, and the mind, this is a map of what my mind is going to say. My mind is going to tell me that I need to think about all these things that don't matter. What about this, and this, and this? Oh, now I'm overwhelmed. I've got to figure all these. Doesn't matter. Stop. But before I know that, it's running my life. It's absolutely running my life. I'm anxious. I've got to figure this out. I've got to be certain. Why can't I be certain? Others are certain, right? So that's just 2 centers example, but there's 9 centers to look at. Okay, so that's kind of the not self of the throat, is about attracting attention. And I just like to, the more and more, because I was very into the law of attraction, manifestation culture, and I had done it, and I had manifested good things, and I'd manifested things that, maybe bit me in the butt. And now I can see that clearly, that I was manifesting from things that don't matter. So I was thinking I needed this thing. I was manifesting certain things so that I could feel certain, and so it's just as a quick example of how that can show up. Shelley, oh my gosh, I just realized lately that I have unresolved pain from not being noticed, feeling invisible. Started in childhood, my mother ignored me. Absolutely. That's the type of awareness that can start to come in when we see, oh, I have an undefined throat. Am I trying to attract attention? I don't know about that. Often with some of my open centers, I'll be like, at first, especially, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Do I really think about things that don't matter? I don't know. But then it starts to come in. Oh, actually, there's some different layers to that of, trying to attract attention. But I didn't get the attention that I particularly with my design, right? Like you, Shelley, with the open throat, you needed that attention. I have 2 kids. One is a defined throat and one is an undefined throat. You know what the thing that my 5-year-old says the most? He's the undefined throat. Mom, look at me. Mom, watch this. Look, mom, watch me. Look. He wants the attention. It's mechanical. So then I just kind of, and there's a lot of ways that, our minds and our psyches learn to deal with that. So that's the layer, the gunk that has to remove to get to that clean frequency. Okay. So now again, the mechanics are that, but there is wisdom in any open center. That's where we're here to go to school. Any white thing, that's what this life, that's our school, that's where we're going to school in this life. So, and in the defined areas, as long as it, if it's a clean frequency, then it can become where we condition others. Now, if we're distorted, we're conditioning everyone in a distorted way. So that's not helping anything, right? Our own lives or collectively humanity or our tribes or whatever. So, okay. So the communication is one of the centers. Now you also see here it's manifestation, it's materialization, because manifestation is bringing things into the material world, the physical plane, all the things that means. It's contact with exterior worlds. It's an outlet for energy and expression, and it's speaking and doing. It's actions and it's sharing, right? And so it's really this also about this kind of, if you think about it, all this energy in our circuit boards, which this shows my particular circuit board, all that energy is moving toward transforming it from energy into the real world, into something real, whether that's by sharing ideas, sharing who we are, being who we are, and just inherently empowering others by just being who we are, by being in this experiment and clearing off all the things that we're not. There is a biological association with the throat center is about the thyroid. And if you think about that, it's the metabolism of the body. It's almost like, in a way, kind of, it's going both ways. It's like taking the physical, thinking about eating. We take physical food, something from the physical world, we put it in. Now that has to digest and metabolize and transform into energy. So it's almost like the opposite in a way. It's, it goes both ways. In human design, it's a binary, they're both applicable. So if the throat center is functioning healthily, whether it's defined or not, then you are having healthy digestion, you are having healthy metabolism, you are having that you're designed to have. It doesn't mean, you're going to be like thin and muscular, like not everyone is designed to be that, but you'll be the thing that you are, and it will feel great. And so that's where it's thyroid and parathyroid in the throat center. So again, that's digestion, metabolic processes, not digestion as far as large intestine, but the messages that are going out with how we digest the world, how we assimilate the information and food going in, how quickly we digest, now again, digest meaning the food or information or other people or traumas or experiences or, external to us. How do we metabolize that? How do we digest it? How fast can we burn that energy? Some of us can burn it fast. Some of us can burn it, don't burn it so fast. I personally do not have, now in human design, we've talked about in some of these centers, they're motors, right? There's 4 motors in the body graph. I have no defined motors. So you better believe I am digesting things more slowly. Now, there's a lot to that, but just to kind of mention, it again, and it determines how our physical body manifests, how we look, how we, we will look how we're designed to look through this cleansing experimental process of knowing our design and working within it. Okay, so, and of course, speaking and our experiences shows up in our physiology. Now, whether it's, we have undefined or defined, when we're speaking, when we should be silent, or when we're silent, when we should share something. Now there's a lot to that, right? I mean, there can be traumas and it hurts and pain and all these things on top of that. There can be a lot of distortion. This is a process of gradually, now for me, it's taken a lot of other tools to process some of those layers of pain. Like you said, Shelley, you're like, oh my gosh, I just realized there's this deep, painful layer of not getting the attention I was wanting, it not in a bratty way. It's just that's how you're designed. And nobody knew that. Your parents didn't know it. Your people that raised you didn't know it. Your siblings didn't know it. And all that's piling into what's on top of what you actually are. So for me, it's taken some other tools, some trauma processing, some other awareness kind of things, some different modalities and things like that, to clear some of that, or to help my body clear that layer. So that's kind of where I've gotten on my path, and that's really helpful. So it's speaking when we should be silent, or being silent when we should be speaking. It's premature words, unwelcome words, where we weren't invited, or we didn't listen to our inner authority, and we said, I need attention, so I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna share this because I have a voice, and there's a lot of that kind of messaging out there. It's nuanced, because it doesn't mean we should just say every single thing we think of it. Now that's the experiment. Try it, see what happens. Look at the voices of the throat. What should we each be speaking from? And then, when is it premature? When is it unwelcome? When did you take action too soon? Because remember, the throat center is not just speaking, it's doing. It's manifesting things into the real world, which is also doing. So it cannot just be speaking when the timing and authority isn't correct. It can also be doing. It can be doing more quickly than you should, taking premature action, unwelcome action. Maybe you have an idea, boom, you're already acting on it when you should have waited. But often, painful trauma, experiential layers are sort of clouding even us being able to feel our authority. So it becomes, again, it's an experiment. You can't mess it up. Just keep watching, see what you can see, look out the window, let life be the driver. Let your inner knowing, which is your inner authority, let it be the driver, and trust. Now that's difficult at times. It's easy at times, and other times it's like, oh, now, I just got fired and I don't know where money's going to come from, and now I have to trust. That's a little harder than when everything's just flowing. So that's the experiment. Okay, so let me kind of see where we are in our notes. Yeah, and of course, our ability to communicate effectively and cleanly in the right timing, which this experiment lets us we learn to do, affects the quality of our relationships, affects our interactions with others, affects who we're around, where we are, the place we are, and that affects our survival. So it actually is all going down. It's going back to that. And this is not about telling others what to do. It's about sharing with others when it's correct, when your authority and your strategy, guide you there, and then letting, others can respond and interact with what you're saying and doing. It's also communicating before acting. When we communicate before taking the action, then it allows us to kind of see what's viable here, what's not viable here, what's going to work, what isn't going to work. Okay, so that the first function of the throat center is manifestation by communicating. The second function is manifestation through action. Now, there's some nuances to that. So you see, like I mentioned this motor thing, right? So I have one channel. I have a spleen defined spleen and I have defined throat. That is not a motor. None of that's a motor. So I don't have a motor to the throat. Now, if you have a solar plexus defined with a channel or a route going to the throat, if you have the ego defined going to the throat, the sacral, or the root, these are the 4 motors right here. If you have any of those, then you are either a manifester or a manifesting generator, period. So anybody else, if that's not your type, you don't have a motor to the throat. So it requires the correct the correct timing of the universe with transits, the correct activations in your chart by something external to you. Again, it's the relationships you have, the timing of what the planets are doing and things like that. So again, it comes back to strategy and authority. We shouldn't all be just trying to make things happen all the time, because it's creating a lot of distortion in the entire world. And we can all feel that. We can all feel that's what's happening right now. Okay, so just bringing up that unless now 9% of humans are a manifester with a motor to the throat that means they're not sacrally defined. Anyone that's sacrally defined is a generator or manifesting generator. That's this center. Okay, so if you have a sacral defined and you have a motor to the throat, you're a manifesting generator, but guess what? You still don't get to initiate and take action, because your strategy is to respond, to wait until life brings you something to respond to. So the only 9% of humans are manifestors who should be initiating, and even they have a whole kind of waiting nuance to their game. So Marilyn, the sacral center is red. Are you talking about if it's defined, it's red? Yeah, there's a whole, there's a lot of people that have questions about why the centers are certain color. Like, why are these brown? And this one's yellow. It's the only yellow one. Why is this one green? Actually, there's 2 yellow ones. Why is this one green? Why, if they're defined. And there's a lot of theories behind that, but essentially it's kind of it's an open head question. It really doesn't matter. Nobody knows. That's what the information came through as, which is a whole subject. Maybe we'll do an HD support call on the receiving of human design knowledge into humanity's awareness. It's the mechanics under everything. It literally shows how groups work, how tribes work, how families work, how the entire society works, how the cosmos works, how our individual very DNA amino acid levels work, how it's the mechanics of the Maya. That's what human design system gives us. It's how insects work. It's how birds work. It's how we dream. It's crazy. So the mechanics of the Maya is what it is. And there's a lot of questions. You said you're new to this, Marilyn, and it's a lot at first. It's very simple though. It can come down to the simple. For me, I'm a 1-3 profile, which means I like to get to the core foundational thing. The core foundational thing, what is your strategy? What is your inner authority? So if you're a generator, Marilyn, that means your sacral's red. You have to wait. Not you have to, you're designed to. You're a magnet. You're not going to get to the correct things, the correct others, unless you're waiting and trusting life. Then when something comes to you, you respond. And my response, now the sacral, that depends on if you have a solar plexus defined or not, but essentially it's the sacral response. Or Now there's nuances to that, but what is your body responding to? So that's a whole game, because the mind's going to jump in a lot and have a lot of different say, but you can't do that. This thing matters. No, that's going to make you seem uncertain and wishy-washy. You can't do that, because is that going to, do they love you? What if you say no because your sacral said no? Are you going to lose this sense of love from that person? Oh, you have to prove, I've got to prove that I'm certain and that I know what matters. It all weaves together. So Marilyn, I definitely invite you, if you respond to it, feel it out, to look into getting a reading or something, because it really does. There's even mini readings, but I recommend a foundational reading because there's just so much to look at. Yeah, and a lot of us, we can start to feel that it's oh, I've felt that before, but I didn't realize that's what it was. And this shows how our mind is sort of jumping in and trying to control the life. We've evolved past that. We've evolved past our strategic mind controlling things and thinking it knows what needs to happen. Oh my God, We do not know what needs to happen. One little person does not know what needs to happen in the entire scheme of of the universe and the river of life. So are we pushing against the life and the river and trying to direct it how we think it should direct? No, go over there around that hill. Or are we positioning ourselves to flow in the river? That's what human design is doing. Okay, so the throat center is a pressure center. There's a pressure. So if you have an undefined throat, you're going to feel a pressure, especially around certain others with a defined throat, to, again, to act or say things too soon or too late. And defined throat, that can happen too, especially when we're not self, with all the other open centers running our minds, right? Because they'll hijack the defined areas, is what it feels like to me, what I've seen. So by knowing our voice, depending on the gates we have activated, we can relax. We can start to watch that. We can relax into waiting and trusting life, waiting for the proper moment to engage with others that are correct and fulfilling for us. And that don't lead to misunderstanding. It's distortion. They're confused by what you say. They're like, I mean, you can feel the resistance when you say something and the other is like, and it can get extreme. It can be extremely, very not comfortable and frustrating and bitter making and disappointing and make you angry. I'm using these words particularly for reasons. Every word this is the language of how everything works. So I'm saying particular words in a particular way for a very big reason. Kendra, you're a 1-3 as well? Yeah, deep dive, that's right. You test it for yourself. That's exactly it. We like to research, find the foundation, and we're gonna try it for ourselves. Even if like that guy over there fainted because he did it, I'm gonna probably try it for myself. That's the third line way. There's a lot to both of those. I definitely invite you to watch the profile or read the profile article, because it can get deep on that one. Okay, I've had a lot of realizations about that. Like you said, Shelley, the third line is about experimentation. It's also, it's like this layer of feeling like I've made so many mistakes, and it's deep. It's deep, and it's bonds made and broken. So it's like, I don't get to choose when the bonds are made and broken. I'm a third line. I'm a third line on the body side, like you, Kendra. We don't get to decide. Sometimes that's painful. I didn't want that bond to break. It broke. Well, that's part of the third line resilience, the third line discovery process, is we figure out what doesn't work. It's painful sometimes to experience over and over what doesn't work. So just to say, there's a depth, there's a depth and a width to go into. And the whole point of all of this, if we're going back to the throat center, is as we start to become more ourselves and cleaner, our frequency becomes cleaner and clearer, and then we are able to share in this clean, real, beautiful way with others that's truly ourselves. Then we get to really start to see how, it's like you'll hear yourself talk, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying. Right now, I'm a line 1. So yes, I researched, I prepared. In the moment though, I have no idea how it's going to come out. It's all of you, connecting with all of you, and it's the right timing. And that's how my process works. It's like, now I can just see what comes out. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. That's good. Didn't realize I was feeling, experiencing that. So it's this really like magical experience that starts to happen. It's so relaxing. The body starts relaxing. The mind starts relaxing. The life reflects it. It's truly very specific and very otherworldly is how it feels to me. Okay, so let's look at the gates of the throat. Okay, so there's 11 gates in the throat. Now I'm just gonna share this one image. I wonder if I can, let's see. It's in my notes, but I think that's okay. Let me try sharing this really quick with you, and then I'll switch back. Okay. So this is the voices of the throat right here. So you can look at each gate. So the gates are called different things. And in fact, I have a little screenshot here. Now there's the gate 62, which is kind of the gate of details. There's 23, which is splitting things apart and understanding how they go back together. There's 56, which is the gate of stimulation, the wanderer. There's gate 16, which I have enthusiasm and the skills to express the enthusiasm. of the depth that I have that turns into a talent. Okay, so this is the gate of depth. This is the gate of enthusiasm and skills. This is the channel talent or the wavelength. So as my one channel, I know it well because I don't have a lot more to work with. So it makes it very simple. So just to show you, it's like the skills and enthusiasm, right? And so to express the depth that I have, it becomes a talent of how I can express it, and I can get others on my wavelength. So that's kind of how this starts to weave together. Okay. So gate 20 is contemplation, the gate of the now. Gate 31 is influence. So I think someone said they only have either 33 or 31. 31 is influence. It's about influence. Gate 8 is the gate of contribution. Gate 33 is retreat, privacy. So you do need that alone time. Gate 35 is progress or change, which I have. And then gate 12 is caution. And gate 45 is gathering together. It's the queen or king gate. Okay. So if we look at these voices of the throat, hold on, I didn't necessarily obviously plan on sharing this, but I was like, this is just going to be better. Okay. So what I like to do this, I mean, we could make a worksheet out of this, right? Like write a little activity is write down what your gates are in your throat. And then you'll look at, now, if you want to take a screenshot of this, I can also drop it into the chat, I think. Let me see if I can. And I would write down, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll figure out a way to share it. I would write down, what are my voices of the throat? Okay, what am I speaking of? Because if I'm hearing myself, for me, I don't have gate 56 activated, but I do have a gate 11 pointing. See, this gate 11 up here is pointing at it. So there's a lot of mechanical things here that I'm throwing out there, but I am going to potentially want to be saying, I believe, I hope, I'm in despair. Okay, but that's not my voice. That's a clue to me to go, oh, when I'm saying I believe this or that, that's not even my voice. That's not my voice. That's either something I grew up with that I'm conditioned by. That's a transit that's happening. That's the particular other that I'm around, whether it's in a coffee shop and I know them or I don't know them, or it's a partner that I do know, or a kid, or any of it, right? So a friend. So I like the idea of writing down, what are my gates, my voices in my throat, undefined or not, or defined, and then just start to watch. Am I saying I remember a lot? Am I saying I can? Because that's not really my voice. That's something to watch. For me particularly, I have 16. So it's about, I experiment. Now you already heard me say experiment 90 times earlier. It's about, I feel. Okay, I have 35. And I do talk about feel. I want to feel that out. I feel like this is happening because I'm speaking from my own experiment, right? I have gathered this information. Gate 45 is the gatherer. It's the king or queen gate. So if you have that activated, it's caring about the tribe to secure resources for the tribe, whether it's knowledge or whatever. It's what am I gathering? And it can be information. It can be experiences. It can be experiments. If you want to weave mine together, I feel I have gathered enough experience in my experiment to lead. Okay, those are my four gates. So I would write down, what are my voices of my throat? What are my defined gates in my throat? And then just start to watch, and you could even write down the ones that aren't you and just start to watch. There's no judgment. There's no wrong way. There's no right way. Just see what you can see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my body graph. Okay, so, just to kind of go through, 72% of humanity is defined in the throat. So that tells you that's the majority of humans have this fixed way of expressing. Now, anywhere that we're defined, there's a fixed way the energy moves through us. It's limited, actually. If you're completely open, if you have no gates activated in throat, you have less limits than those of us that have all these gates defined in our defined throat. So that's where the wisdom comes in, because you aren't again, limited. You aren't limited to only one way that you're going to express. or not one way, but I mean, I have 4 gates. So there's 4 different ways that can weave together in a bunch of different ways. It's fixed though. I'm not going to talk about what I believe. I mean, if I'm talking about that, I really don't hear myself saying, I remember this and that a lot. It's not really a word I use a lot in a way. And it's only because I've started to watch this and go, oh, what are my throat gates? You know? So again, an interesting experiment. Okay. So let's see. So if another way to look at it, the throat has 6 different centers that it connects with through channels, 6 different centers. So if it's connecting with, the heart center, if you have something connecting your heart or ego center to the throat through a channel, like if I had the gate 21, I would then have a defined heart and a defined throat, and I would have a motor to the throat. So I would be a manifester. Okay. Because I don't have a defined sacral, so I can't be a generator. So, and this is kind of, it's going beyond this class, but just can't repeat it enough, right? So this voice, if I had this channel defined, which means that the heart center is going right to the throat. This is about worth and proving and willpower, right? So then I might have a voice that would say, I want that, I have that, I will do that. Okay, I've heard myself say those things. And so it's like, ooh, okay, whoa. It feels weird because anytime I say I will do something with an undefined center, stop. Undefined heart center, ego center, should not be made. We're not here to make promises, commitments. We question our worth. We're here to learn what's worthy. So if I'm saying I will do this, I'm making a promise. Stop. That is not who you are, Alicia. Word it differently, express it differently. I feel like I'll look into that later and I'll feel that out. Don't make a promise of when you're going to do something. Now, of course, there's limitations within actual life. Life is limitations, right? So if somebody hires me to do a project by Thursday at 9 a.m., well, there is a level of like commitment, but that's where the strategy and authority comes in. Was I invited? My strategy is to be invited. Now that I was invited, yes, I was invited to do that project by Thursday. They needed it on Thursday. Now I was invited. Did my spleen guide me to do it? Was it correct? Oh yeah, I got lit the hell up. I'm doing it. Now it's okay that I committed to that because I followed my strategy and authority. So it's activated by the correct strategy and authority guiding us there. Okay. So if you have the G center connected to the throat, then, and that's identity, love, and direction, it's going to be, you're going to speak from a personal identity and direction from the higher self, because the G center is the higher self. If you have a channel going from the spleen to the throat, then that's me, right? I can speak spontaneously from an intuitive knowing in the moment. I don't have to plan everything out. Now, for me as a line 1, research, I want all the data, I will lay all that out, but I've realized my process is do all your research, then let go in the moment and be spontaneously speaking from intuitive knowing in that moment. Okay, if you have the sacral going to the throat, sorry, the sacral does go to the throat, but I guess I didn't write that one down. I'll have to go back and look at that, but it would be about doing, right? I have this thing I'm going to do. I did this. I responded to that. If you have the solar plexus attached to the throat, it's speaking or acting on emotions and feelings. And then if you have the ajna connected to the throat, which is about, conceptualizing, it's taking the information from our gray matter and processing it. And then it can come out the throat to once it's conceptualized in our particularly specifically designed way. Then it's going to be speaking about what I'm thinking. It's going to be speaking about, let Marilyn back in. It's going to be speaking about what I'm thinking. It's going to be speaking about what my mind process is, what I'm conceptualizing. Okay, let me check the chat. I have hope motivation, but not gate 56. Does that mean when I'm around people who have gate 56, I feel more hopeful and can speak and manifest that hope for me and others? I think the correct other will allow those parts to integrate in you. So I would watch like what when you're invited, because you're a generator, Shelley. So when life brings you the correct person and you've responded, your response is and you can feel that correct other. It's like in human design, we talk about it being on a fractal. you can feel when you're on the same fractal with someone, the communication it's like a clear line of communication. You understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You understand what I'm saying. And it's not like clunky and difficult. You know, you've probably had those communications where there's resistance and you can feel it. A fractal, you know, when you're on the same fractal, you can really, you know, connect and easily understand each other. So I would say, you know, yeah, absolutely. When we are activated by the correct other, different things can move through our body. And there's a lot of nuances to that, which is why I definitely encourage you to get a reading or watch some of the other resources that we put out there with how that works. And then Kendra, I have only 31 activated, so that's influence. It's the only one with a path to 7 from the center below. Okay. Also the only one activated in that center. So that's something to investigate. Yeah, a strong voice to lead there, it seems. Yeah, and I think Kendra, are you a projector? I don't know if I got that earlier. I had a feeling that, I think maybe you said that you were, but I don't know. So because I have the influence as well. Now, again, if the red and the black matters, the red is something it's called the unconscious. We're not going to know about it. We're not going to really maybe identify with it. Oh, you're a generator. Okay. So it's when life brings you something to respond to, Kendra, that your inner authority gives you the now, whether that's over time, if your solar plexus defined, you need time to feel out that sacral response because it will change, or whether it's in the moment, what your sacral response is, then it will be the correct time to lead. When you're invited and your response says yes, because not to get too crazy, but this is a projected channel. So you are a generator. So ultimately your strategy is wait, then respond to what comes to you. If it's a response to lead. Kendra, would you want to lead this meeting for us? You really like, you have this intuitive, like you have this like spontaneous way that you know what we need to do and this way of expressing. And you get boom, it's unlocked. It's like this magic level is unlocked. Next level unlocked is what happens when you follow the strategy and authority. And then you share, oh, woo, the magic. You can't even believe what happened. Okay, I feel like I was saying something, but I lost my train of thought. The influence. Oh, if you're a projector, I mean, if you're a generator too, and you have this gate 31 or the whole channel, that's going to be something to watch. If it's red, especially, I might not realize that my aura is influencing whether I say anything or not. This is the aura mechanics of how my energy is felt and how it moves through the world. I can say, well, I'm going to sit back and I'm not going to say anything, but they'll feel it, and the correct other will invite me to influence, to lead. Okay, so it depends on a lot of other things in your chart, Kendra, as well. And yeah, I definitely, as a line 1, there's a lot of resources that you can dig into yourself, and when you get there, get a reading and all of that. Okay. Oh, and your solar plexus defined. Yes, 100%. That's a whole thing we got to talk about. Okay. So the defined throat center, when it's healthy, there's a healthy and an unhealthy state. Okay. The unhealthy is like the not self of a defined center. Now we can have not self in the defined centers too, because again, it's going to be not only distorted by our open centers and channels, and if we're a split definition and what type we are and all the layers of experience and whatever, if there's pain and trauma on top of it, right? So it's going to all that can distort even our definition. But again, we keep going back to, this is what I am. This is what I am. So, okay. So the healthy version is having a consistent way of expressing ideas and insights and opinions, having a stable, reliable way of communicating, knowing where your true voice comes from. Again, voice gates. Look at your voice gates. And I mean, you can even put them on a Post-it on your mirror and kind of just that will be DNA transformative, just seeing that over and over every day. And it's knowing where your true voice comes, which allows you to speak your own truth, which is ultimately what we're here to do, each one of us. And then the unhealthy version of the defined center is speaking or acting too readily or inappropriately, talking too much, therefore losing your impact or influence, right? If you have a defined throat, seeming overwhelming to others because your verbal style is fixed, especially if you're not following your strategy. So if I wasn't invited and I was just spewing all of my knowledge that I have gathered, gate 45, and experimented with, gate 16, and trying to influence and lead because of how I feel. And if I wasn't invited, that's my whole strategy, then forget it. It's going to be horrible. They're not going to appreciate me. I'm going to feel bitterness later. I'm not going to feel success. Absolutely not. And who knows what else can come out of it. Okay. So, all right. Undefined is 28% of the population. We said it's trying to attract attention. What am I going to become in life? I have to figure out what I'm becoming in life. Okay. So that's kind of how it can, because you're trying to manifest into the, into the world. That you're trying to communicate and manifest through the throat. So if it's undefined, you have this inconsistent openness there, this almost like a vulnerability there. But again, that's what has the potential for wisdom over time. So it's afraid they won't be noticed. If you're undefined in the throat, you can also succumb to amplified pressure to talk, act, make an impression, interrupt, or be the life of the party. Doesn't mean defined throat. I mean, I'm the life of the party. I can be a life of the party. I'm defined throat. When I'm invited, though, I'm way less trying to be the life of the party than I used to be, And again, the open throat naturally attracts attention. In fact, celebrities, probably, I don't even know what the percentage is, but like a very large percentage of celebrities have an open throat because they know how and when to attract attention, and they want that attention. I can see that he's almost 6 now. He is like an entertainer. And the rest of us, the other, there's 4 people in the family, the other 3 have defined throats. So it's very clear the difference there. He wants to entertain. He wants to make us laugh. He does like silly dances. And I mean, none of the other of us do that. So it's just really interesting. And you just, as a child, ultimately, you want to support children in your life with their design because they don't have all the crap layered on top of it. They can just be themselves uniquely. There's challenges within that to parent that often, especially when it's different from our own design. But that's ultimately what it's about. Our children being supported in who they are and not being conditioned to be something they're not. So they can be clean in the world and move forward in the future with humanity in a clean frequency and contribute that to the collective. Okay. So the healthy, let's see. Yeah, undefined me shuts down with that overload. Yeah, so Shelley, if someone is defined throat around you, or even if you two define it together through, you have one gate, they have like, you have the 56 or you have the 62, say they have the 17, right? Now it's defined, or whichever one you mentioned earlier. It's like, that can be overwhelming to where also the undefined throat can just stop speaking and shut down. Right. So that's something to watch. It can show up a lot of different ways. Everything's an or not, trying to attract attention or not, or avoiding all attention because it's painful because you never got the attention that you actually are designed to get. No one's fault. It's no fault living. That's what human design is. The guide for no fault living. It's no one's fault. They just didn't know the mechanics. I didn't know my mechanics. They didn't know my mechanics. They didn't know their own mechanics. They have their own pain that they didn't get to be who they were, So I love that. No fault living. Okay. So yeah, try to do well in school. Yeah. Try to gain attention by doing well in school and achieve. And yeah, I mean, which you've done, and you probably did get a lot of attention, but it's just interesting to look back and see how that has shown up. It's almost like I look back and I go, oh my gosh, this one core thing from my not self. Oh my God, it was making all of my decisions based on that one core thing that's not even me. And so then it becomes this process of, processing that. And then that shifts it so that it doesn't continue to run your life from your mind, from all these open centers, which is what your mind is going to be saying. Okay, so with the undefined throat, the healthy version, and I want to be aware of time, we have about 6 minutes, being comfortable with having many different ways of expressing yourself, being verbally versatile, don't have a need to attract attention, and being okay with being silent unless asked or invited, being comfortable not speaking, which is a journey because you naturally amplify anywhere that we're undefined, we're amplifying the other. Yeah, and then communicating best when given space, experiencing all the different voices of the throat center, especially if you have a completely open throat center. The unhealthy would be trying to attract attention, speaking out of turn, not knowing when to be quiet, or even the opposite, only being quiet and not expressing yourself, not speaking when you should speak or when it would have been correct and the other person might have needed that. trying to be verbally dominant, fill in the silence. And even I have a friend who I freaking love her, but she has an undefined throat. And I have noticed for years now, I have a defined throat. So I'm over here, conditioning her with my throat, and she's amplifying. She will talk and talk and talk, and she'll never run out of something to talk about, which I often was a little jealous of that. Like, I was like, why, she could just talk about anything with anyone all the time. Whereas I would always worry about what I was going to say, what can I talk about with this person? Now it's different, and I'm in a different place, but throughout my whole life before human design. And now I know, oh, she has an open throat. So she's amplifying, she's just talking. So I can see the mechanics of it, and it allows acceptance. It allows embracing of it, because it's like, again, it's no one's fault. That's their design. And if they're distorted, then it shows up this way. And if they're clean, you can feel that. It's great. Right? I'm done overachieving. Exactly. There's nothing to prove. Don't you have an undefined ego too, Shelley? So that's weaving in, attracting attention, needing to prove that I deserve the attention. And I have an undefined ego too. So I know how that weaves in. Yeah. And it's just like, you know what? How relaxing to go, done with that. Don't need to do that. Don't need to prove anything. And also don't need to attract attention. The right people will see me. And that's it. So then it becomes, working through the mind chatter on top of that. Okay. So again, awareness is key, and that begins the shifting. Now there are additional tools and things that can support us with that shifting, and with the pain of discharging that layer of not self is how it's felt to me. So there's been different tools that I've found that help me with this layer of digesting that finally, and not having it stuck in my body, showing up in health things, showing up in my life, showing up in the way things are manifesting, showing up in my feelings, showing up in what I have, showing up in how I lead, showing up in my enthusiasm, skills, and my experiment. I just used all my voices in my throat, in case you didn't realize. Okay, so we're at time. So I wanted to just mention that. And ultimately, this just becomes about loving where we are colored in our chart. At first, I'm like, oh my God, I have all these open centers. I wish I was a generator. I could do this. If I was a manifestor, I could do this. If I had this. Now I'm like, oh, I would never, if I could choose one channel to have in the whole chart, it would be 1648. Like, you become, like, you start to love yourself more and more deeply. You don't wish you had something else. You're glad you have self-oppression as your design sun. You're glad. You're like, oh, it's good, because I also realize all these things, and I can see when things are oppressive. That's the wisdom, So anyway, just this becomes about loving yourself deeper and deeper and deeper, layer and layer and layer. But it's an experiment, and it takes time. It's a process. So Shelley said, you just said what my best friend said here. Oh, your best friend's on, how sweet. People are magnetized to you. I guess I didn't know that or believe that. So I was trying to get attention. Thank you for bridging that certainty. You have a defined ajna that I don't need that. Oh, I love that. Yes, we are all magnets. And so it's like, the more we can when we begin this, we're this distorted magnet. We just don't know. It's not even our own fault. It's no one's fault. It's just, we didn't know. And now we know. So now we can start to be a clean magnet. And the right things can magnetize, can get through the gunk and get right to us. So that is the ultimate. Oh, I get the chills just feeling it, because I love how you said that, Shelley. And it's giving me full body chills, because that's truly how it feels. And there's nothing else that reaches the depth of what these mechanics can do. So in my experiment, okay, 16. So that's going to be the end of today. We did have one question, which I just want to tease. Anne asked about the gates that connect with plants. And, she wanted to know about the ones with plants. And particularly gate 5 and 15 is the flow. This is nature's fixed rhythm. Gate 15 is the extremes of nature. So the rain, the sun, the cold, the hot, all the things, which is how we also are. We are nature. We are made of that. And then gate 5 is the fixed rhythms. So it's about fixed rhythms with extremes. So if you have a 5 or 15, you're likely going to benefit from being around plants. Also the spleen, if you have a defined spleen, plants can have a defined spleen or an undefined spleen. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you for asking that, Anne. So that she's going to watch later and hear that. And Tiffany and I got inspired by that question, and we want to do a session, a podcast, or one of these calls on plants, animals, insects, and birds, and how people connect with them, because it's really enlightening. The next call we will do will be on the G center. Okay, so we're kind of going through the thing. We have the G center and we have the sacral center as far as the 9 centers for these calls. The G center is love, identity, and direction. It's the higher self. It's this beautiful love that emanates out. So we're going to talk about that next. And thank you so much. Oh, Kendra, that's so nice. Your time and energy today. Love the learning. Look forward to getting a foundational reading. Yes, when you're ready, when it's time, when your solar plexus fills it out, when your response is there, you are invited. You're not a projector, but I'm a projector, so I can invite. And yes, thank you guys so much for joining today. You're just, you being there and asking certain things and saying certain things, and just your energy, your auras, allows a lot to connect in me. And that's the whole purpose of being human with each other. So we will post this later on our member site. And thank you all so much for joining and for your time. Love you guys. Namaste.